You can't win if you're not on the ballot. Sometimes someone needs to just be in the race.
I said, I'm not going to let us lose majority on council. I'm not going to let that happen.
If you run a real race and recognize that there are so many other things that come from whether you win or lose, people will get connected because you ran that may go on to do really incredible things in their community.
If you step out here and run, know what the people want. And if you don't know, you need to get out and you need to ask them.
To me, politics is less left and right. It's more up and down. And that's what our message of our campaign was anyway. It was about housing affordability. It was about transit. It was about trees, childcare, these things that affect people every day.
Don't let other people dictate what you do. You stay strong and believe in your message and what you want to do, and you go for it.
I can't tell you how many people elected Democrats.
Yes.
Like, don't run.
Really?
You'll lose.
They thought you were going to lose.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And I said, I'm running anyway.
Welcome to the very first episode of what I am calling Great Ships. I am your host, Taylor Culliver, and this podcast is about the people helping steer South Carolina toward a new political horizon, the organizers, candidates, strategists, and community leaders navigating the real currents that shape our state and our community's future. I wanted to start the series and this show by grounding us in what's possible when people work together locally, both courageously and intentionally. And there was no better pair of folks that I felt like we could have our first conversation with than these two incredible women that I have with me today, Tina Belge and Breanna Spaulding, who just successfully won a city council campaign in Greenville, South Carolina. So today I'm joined by Tina, who was the candidate and is a new city council member, soon to be next week, I believe.
Starts Monday.
Awesome. And Breanna Spaulding, who is a campaign strategist and political consultant. Disclosure, she was my campaign manager last year when I ran for office and has so many incredible stories and experiences to tell about how to get people elected in South Carolina. So what we're going to talk about today is what it takes to run and win in local races, not only in Greenville, but across the state, the strategy behind the campaign, what Tina learned early on when she first ran for office for state senate several years ago, and how they both built a plan to get elected and to win this seat. And so what I hope you hear in this conversation is the mix of strategy, grit, clarity, personal reflection, and the deep belief that I know Tina and Bree both have in the power of community and the power of moving our communities forward. So welcome, Tina and Bree. Let's set sail. I want to start, Tina, with you, because I want to learn just a little bit more about what first pulled you into this kind of service, and a little bit more about your own kind of political journey and how you got here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember thinking about political office when I was like 10 years old. Like I was watched the news every night with my dad. It was actually Fox News.
You don't say.
Surprisingly. But I remember watching the Bush-Gore debates. I was 10 years old, and I thought, gosh, there's no women up there. I think I could do that. And my dad always complained about the government. So that, along with the experience I had when I was a kid in and out of people's homes, it got me interested in housing and certainly public service and government. And I thought my dad's always complaining about it, I got to fix it. So I'll fix it from the inside. So I worked in local government for most of my career. A little bit federal, a little bit state. And then, it's really, I think it's a continuation of that same desire to help make the world better, make our communities better. And I believe in public service, so it's just an extension of that.
Yeah. What about you, Bree? What got you in the mix on all of this campaign stuff?
Yeah, so like Tina as well, early on, I loved watching the news. My parents still joke and say that the news was a default. CNN was default in our house. Like, if you just turn the TV on, that's what it was on. They were watching sometimes, but I would go in there and just turn it on myself. And I would like to know what was going on. I loved current events. I love just knowing what was happening. I've always loved knowing the presidents and who they were, what they were before they got to be a president, what they study, like what kind of cars do they have, like what is fun for them to do as a president, like to know that these were regular people who like wanted to run a country. It was like mind blowing to me as a child. So I took time to like study all the presidents and really just love them, their wives, all the fun stuff. And so that kind of piqued my interest. And then I just got involved in high school and well, in elementary school. I was always involved in student government and all that kind of stuff all the way through school and minored in political science. And
SGA.
then, yeah, let's go SGA. And yeah, and then decided that, okay, I see a path here that fits my expertise and the things that I like, so let's do it. And I started a political consulting firm.
Gotcha. Why political consulting and the stuff in the background versus running for office and kind of doing the more forward facing stuff? What was it about kind of being behind the scenes that really drove you?
Well, it's really just people need help, right? There's really great folks out here who want to make a difference, who have the story like Tina, who grew up around hearing about this or that and finding different ways that they can use their skill set to be helpful to others. So when I meet really great candidates like the both of you who really have great stories and who understand that they can use themselves to really help people, I'm like, how can we make this happen? How can you win? Like, let's find a way for you to be there making it happen. So I like to tell people all the time, I don't work for people I wouldn't vote for if I don't live in
Mm,
their districts. If I do live in their districts, then of course I'm voting for them. But that's my rule of thumb. Like if I'm not voting for you, even if I don't live in your district and I'm questioning if I'm a vote for you, I'm not working for you. So this is a moral
mhm.
game for me as well. This is not just money. This is heart. Um, I believe in the candidates that I support and that I work with.
Awesome. Yeah. Tina, I know that you ran for state senate several years
Mhm.
ago. I think it was
Yes.
2019, and performed quite well in that special election. I think 44%. I don't know if there has been a Democrat in Greenville County that's run anywhere close to that in the kind of districts outside of the ones that Democrats currently hold. And
Right.
so I want to poke a little bit there. What did you learn from that first that was your first race? Yeah?
Yes.
What did you learn? And kind of what takeaways did you have? And I know there's been a gap, right, between then and starting to pick up and run again. And so I just want to talk about
Yeah.
that time span a little bit, what you learned and kind of what you picked up along the way to prepare you for your city council race.
Yeah, wow. It's not my first. If you count my 5th grade, I ran for treasurer. I lost.
Uh,
It was
you're
like
second then.
Tina for treasurer. And then it's student government I had to run every year. And I
Okay,
became vice president of my university.
gotcha.
But yeah, of course, this is the first public office. And yeah, I learned a lot. I mean, it was like drinking from a fire hose because it was a special, it was very short, time compression. And so I learned how to balance a lot of things, balance a schedule, how to public speak, how to, you know, get in front of folks and deliver um, good ideas. I think I learned a lot of what not to do for sure. Like, um, come to something unprepared or not thinking so much, talking to like a media person or, I'm sure there was like all these little mistakes I made constantly. But you don't know it until you're in it. And I learned how to get comfortable with myself and putting yourself out there, being vulnerable. Um, and I think also just the speed and pace of a campaign, even though it was very like condensed and shortened, um, I think I've carried that same momentum into this one. Like, there's a lot of conversations like, man, she's at everything, like, every night. Tina's like at all this stuff. Like, they're always out doing all the things. I think, because of that first race, it was time compressed, and I kind of had to do that. Um, and so it kind of set me up for a more realistic run the second time
Hmm.
around.
Yeah, and the numbers this second time around with city
Yeah.
council much more favorable, right, in terms of Greenville City's makeup of the electorate.
Yes.
But I want to hear from you a little bit just around like why run, and I have some of my own reflections on this. Like why run in those challenging races where maybe you're unlikely to win the first time, or maybe it's not really clear. Like why step into the arena in the first place? I know there's a kind of ongoing
Yeah.
debate both locally and statewide around should we be running in races that we know we're going to lose, or that we
Mm,
feel like we can't be as competitive in. And I just want to hear maybe you and Bree's reflections on why should people run when it feels like the deck is stacked against them.
yeah. Well, I'll let you go first, Brie.
I think that there is a piece of it where we have to assess like what you're doing it for, right? Sometimes we know that some of the races that we're running in, we may and may not. And I forget exactly who said it. There is a famous quote that someone said that, you have no shot at winning or you can't win if you're not on the ballot. And if you're not in the race. So sometimes someone needs to just be in the race. And I think we saw that a little bit in Tennessee 7 this week is that someone needed to be in the race. Someone needed to be pushing the Democratic agenda forward and
Yeah.
bringing it to the forefront in the conversation that got the attention of millions and millions of people and millions of dollars to be able to share what that message is right now in a very consequential time in our American history because we are living American history right now. This is the way I think about it to keep myself going is that what are you
Mm,
doing to be a part of American history because this is a story that is going to be told. And
Mm,
and that race was she wasn't successful, but at the same time, she cut that margin 13 points. That is something that requires a quite bit of an effort to do. So there was a lot of success in that. And had it been not a special election, there would have been down ballot races that would have been won by even bigger margins because of that. There would have been swings happening all across Middle Tennessee that no one saw
mhm.
coming. And it was because of the moment that we're in, but it also is because someone was on the ballot that cared to run and put themselves out there and do what was necessary to run a real campaign. We also got to run real campaigns. I'm tired of people just running. I'm tired of
mm,
people saying I'm just going to put my name on the ballot because no one's running. Okay, do that and then run a real campaign. Ask
Mhm.
Heather Bauer. She did it. She said, no one's running. This man does not deserve to be running unopposed. I'm going to run and I'm going to run a real campaign and I'm going to run on the issues that matter to me and my district because I have talked to these people every day. I'm in the community. Do that. Talk about the
That's right.
issues that matter, but run a real race. So if you're
mm,
going to run and you're going to put your name on the ballot because no one else is, give us something to work with. Show us what you got. Don't just sit back and look around for everybody else. No, you put your name out there. Give us tell us what we're voting for, what you want us to vote for. So I think that's important. So sometimes we just need people to run real races and be in the race. And then you give us something to work with and something to look forward to and inspire people like Afton did. We are out there. We're going to come vote for you. We're going to knock doors. We're going to get engaged. And I think that's what it takes. That's the piece that's missing from this contest every race message. We have
mm.
to contest every race with real races.
Gotcha. Yeah. Tina, I wonder some of your reflections
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, for me, it's very interesting. I just given birth to my oldest, and I think I was also in this place of like when you're becoming a new person, and you're becoming a mom, and you feel like you're losing part of your older self. And I always, had this dream since I was a little girl, and I was like, there was a seat, it was open. I was like, ah, fuck it. Oh, sorry, I'm probably not supposed to cuss.
It's okay.
You can,
This is
you
this
can
is
be.
real shit, Tina.
Be true to who
Okay.
you are, girl.
So Yeah, I mean, I knew the likelihood was low, but it was a special. It is all about turnout, and that's the game that we played, and we did great. I think it was a 12-point split. I think you have to be strategic about um, running again, and my intention was no matter what, I was going to run again.
Mm.
So I knew it was going to be a way to get my name out there. It still be within the district of where I could run in the future. That was, viable. Um, I do think I agree with Bree. If you're going to run, like, please run a real campaign, make it look good. Like, you don't want this being like representative of candidates in the area, right? But I do think if there's going to be like one or two, I think the benefit is you have people who are being touched who haven't necessarily had that touch, right? If nobody ever runs for that seat, there are whole communities that are just like not being talked to, not being door knocked. And so you have that loss, but maybe the ones that are going to be maybe a little harder and you're like, okay, we may or may not come out of this one. I think it's good to be strategic. Maybe you have just one or two of those where you can put a lot of resources in. And so maybe it's not every single seat, but make sure that all the geographic areas, especially those who are really not heard in our community, are getting that touch. I think that's the
Mhm.
most important part.
Yeah, it strikes me that the state has been gerrymandered so much, and in a
Mm.
way that even on the Democratic side, you have a lot of people who are not being talked to or spoken to because at the state House and Senate level,
Yeah.
those Democrats actually are in pretty safe seats and are not being challenged either, right? And so I think a part of the representation challenge with South Carolina and with our local communities is that there are whole swaths of communities that just we're not hearing from at all, and they're not being spoken to with an alternative message for how we can move communities forward. And so, but I do really resonate with like, if you're going to run, like run.
Yeah.
And most people I'll say like don't really know what that entails, right? They don't know what that takes. And so that's where I want to kind of ping next is what does it
Mm.
take to when we say if you're going to run, what does it take to really do this well? Bree, I want to start with you. Uh, I remember having a conversation with you when I was running, and I think Tina, you had shown up to one of the events that I was hosting, and Bree and I had just had a brief conversation, and Bree was like, "I really want to work for her. I really like, is she gonna run?" And so Bree, there was something that you saw even I don't even know how far back, but there was something that you saw in Tina that you really kind of valued and appreciated and felt like she was a good candidate, so much so that you were kind of ready for her to step into this city council race. And so I want to start like, what does it take? What are you looking at when you're thinking about a good candidate, when you're thinking about somebody you would want to work for? What are you thinking about in terms of that person? And then what are you thinking about in terms of the landscape and what's going to make a good kind of campaign in a competitive race?
Yeah. So I think this is twofold. I was raising my hand when you were saying that because the first thing that popped in my mind is I know sometimes we in the political world take for granted that politicians, if you will, I don't even like calling them that. I call them electeds. Um,
Yes.
you know, electeds are not as close to people in their regular orbit. So normally you can't find in your phone someone elected and say, "Oh, let me just call Tina Belge on city council because that's my girl." Like that's not normal, okay?
Mhm.
But it's kind of you don't think about it like that. But as you're in different political functions or you're meeting different political people because you're interested in running, you should get to know some of your local electeds and start there as you get to know them. And maybe it may, I mean, I wouldn't encourage you to go to the person who you might be running against and be like, "Hey, I want to get to know you." And then you run against them because that's just not going to work well for y'all. But if there's someone who may align with you that may be in an adjacent seat or something like that, call them. Ask them how they did it. Ask them who they worked with. Call winners. Stop calling all these people who have lost all these races, asking them
Not the
what to do.
losers.
Stop calling the losers. I'm sorry. I'm just
You
gonna
can
say
still
it like
call me.
that.
I'm still available. I have
And
some
I'm not
perspective.
and I'm not saying just one loser. I'm saying people
Yeah.
who've lost multiple times who have worked for people who have lost multiple times, and they're not showing that they can win at all. Everyone has up and down years, seasons, cycles, candidates. I haven't won every race I've worked on, but my wins outweigh my losses by a good bit. And I'm just saying, like, you got to start looking at that. But as your candidate that's coming in, and if there was someone in Greenville area and they bring your name up, they say, oh, he didn't just lose, though. He ran a great campaign. Then that opens the door to go talk to Taylor Culliver, hear what he did, what he felt he did right, wrong, what were the circumstances in the election that you have to weigh and you have to factor. So on a candidate perspective or pre-candidate perspective, find people that are in the circle and that are winning and talk with them about how they did it or like what suggestions they would give. More people are willing to give suggestions than people think. People just don't ask. And I think that is the biggest problem that we have with races not being up to a certain level that they should. Now, on the operative side, like I said earlier, I work with people I would want to vote for. But I also watched Tina's race. So I was early in my career when Tina ran for Senate in the special election, and she was an Emerge grad, and I had did some Emerge training the year that she was running. And she was getting involved and everyone just kept talking about her. And I was like, let me just pay attention to this race. So early in my career, her race was one I studied. This is also something that this is going to be your career. This is a profession. We're not just up for hire. This is my profession. I do this professionally. So I take that seriously and saying I studied her race. I watched her from the beginning to the end. I watched her and what they were doing. I was listening to all the other operatives that were on the ground at the time and what they had to say and things they saw they wish Tina would have done or things they saw they really liked that Tina did. And then I listened to her. She's always been a great speaker. She's always been able to command a crowd and show her passion through her words. And a lot of people can't do that. And sometimes it takes a lot of training and it takes a lot for that. But that's something, Tina, you were born doing. I'm sure your family probably tells you don't lack the words to tell us whatever you need to tell us. You have the words. You get it out. So I think that was powerful to me because I was the same way. I was born talking. My parents didn't tell me all the time, okay, we're good, thank you. Because we were born talking. So I just think that that's important. And that was something that resonated with me and that I could see. And I was always just thought she was a great candidate. And she's been around. So after that loss, she stayed involved. And that's another point of talking to the people who lose, who don't go away, who don't disappear and take their marbles and run home. Like, no, they're still in the fight. They still are here because they were here for the right reason. They were here to make a difference. So they find an avenue to do the things that they wanted to do elected as a community member, as a true citizen, and they're there for that reason. So I knew that about her. I said, she's been around, she still comments on stuff, she's still putting her opinions out there, she's still rallying for this, she's still getting people housing, she's all over this, she's writing this, she's doing that. I said, this girl's still here. I said, she gotta run for something. So when I saw her that day, I was like, call me when you're ready, because I know you're ready. And when you're ready, I'm ready, because you're a great candidate and you can win. And that's how that conversation started.
Wow. Don't we all wish we had somebody like Bree to like speak So Tina, I want to know when you decided that you were going to do this. And I'm curious, and you don't have to unveil the curtain too much, but like, had you been having conversations with Russell Stahl, who seat that you're taking? Had you been having conversations with him about his endorsement prior to dipping your toe in? Walk us through what you were considering at the time and how much of a lead up there was until you kind of made the decision and came out publicly and said you were running.
Yeah, it's a great question. It is a more than a year-long process. I think most people don't realize that. I started talking to him in the summer time. There were rumors going around that he wasn't going to run for a second term, which means if I'd heard it, that means probably someone else had heard it, which means like other side was probably already getting somebody. But it was very interesting because there's just a lot of different information out there about if he would even have a challenger or was he going to step down. Anyway, so I think it was by September, um, him and I met and like he confirmed that he would support me if I ran. And then I think not too far after that, maybe it was like October, early November, we found out there was a challenger also. So um, I'd gone to that event for you, and that was November. And yeah, I think I had in my mind just keeping an eye on who your team was at that event because I was thinking about
Really?
it. And what really sealed it for me
Look at that.
was,
I was
yeah,
like, this the synchronicity.
it was. It really was. It was. I thought, gosh, and I think I said like, "Ooh, I got to get her number." I think a big piece of it though was waking up the November, and just what a hard day that was for everybody. And my birthday was that next day. Like the election was
Mm,
the 5th, my birthday was the 6th. And I thought, like, I am not gonna, and I just found out about the challenger. And I said, I'm not gonna let us lose majority on council. I'm not gonna let that happen. And like granted, I don't think everything is, partisan, especially in local politics, but after just everything nationally and then everything nationally that's gone on
mhm.
since November, I think I'm pretty vindicated in that. Uh yeah, I thought that was kind of the moment I like locked in.
Wow. Yeah. One of the things I want to um just echo is this idea that, like, when you run, you have no idea the ripple effects that will come from your deciding to step into that arena, right?
Mm,
And um even just hearing you say you showed up to my event kind of scouting out my team, and like, you just never know, and y'all may have known each other before, right? But I
through
know.
social media maybe.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so, I know, Lillian worked on your campaign this go round. She volunteered for my campaign last time
Yeah.
around, and I think had a much bigger role in your campaign, right? And so I just wanna echo, like, if you run a real race and recognize that there are so many other things that come from whether you win or lose. It's
Mhm.
both gaining experience, it's giving other people experience
Yeah.
to get volunteer experience or ground game and learn about how to run campaigns.
Yeah.
And people will get connected because you ran that may go on to do really
Man.
incredible things in their community. And so just
My
to
first
like,
race
yeah,
my
go
first
ahead.
race certainly had that. Like my staff went on to like because all the
Hmm.
presidentials have been coming through. We met all of them. I opened up for Bernie, like, and Corey, and met Kamala's team, and Pete knocked door.
Hmm.
They were all
Hmm.
up in all the. Some of them moved to DC, and I'm just like sitting here, like I lost, and you know.
I'm still here, but you go.
I'm still here. I'm still working it. I'm still here for the community. But yeah, it was so wonderful. That's exactly why in my first race I chose all new. I mean, I worked on campaigns before, like as a volunteer. I worked a congressional race once in the comm stuff. Like I'd worked on campaigns, but it's very different when you're a candidate. And I wanted my team to have some experience, but I also wanted to like elevate a bunch of young people to do
Hmm.
awesome stuff, and a lot of them just yeah, they kick butt. They're,
Crushing it.
"Bye, I'm over
Yeah.
here."
Yeah. Yeah, I wanna talk a little bit because you let us hear there is this national both of you did, right? Like, there's this national picture that has been
Mm,
happening throughout the past year, with Trump getting reelected, and what I would say is that even beyond Trump, like, our politics has more or less gotten incredibly nationalized, right? Like, most of the news and the information that we're getting is about what's happening at the federal level.
yeah,
Most of the kind of issues that people are focused on are happening at the federal level, or they're being discussed, and the policies that can change those things are happening at the federal level. So in some ways, there's some, I think, you know, benefit, quote unquote, of people being engaged in the way that they've been engaged over the past year, and our local community's response to the Trump administration, and the cruelty and disregard for life or progress that comes with that. but there's also this kind of question around like how do we get people to focus locally, right? And for me, it's like if we're ever gonna change systems that happen at the federal level, it's gonna start at the city council, the school board, the county council, the commissions, and so how much of the national picture played into how you all started to approach the campaign?
Mm.
My sense of it, Tina, is that y'all did a very good job of keeping your issues very local and talking about what was happening right here in Greenville. But it's also, I've been in conversations, right, where I'm talking about stuff that could happen at the state level, and people just want to talk about Trump, right? Or they just want to talk about Biden or Kamala or whoever. And so, what was the strategy behind the approach and the messaging, and in the midst of this like really profound national story that's happening that we're all a part of? What this little local race in Greenville meant for people and our way forward.
Mm. Well, I would say we, like you said, definitely focused on local. Like we leaned in on local hard. But I also didn't shy away from all the protests and rallies and things. Like I spoke at them. Did I make a big deal about posting about it? And like, no, I don't want our agenda and our message to be about the public, about national, because even when I spoke at those things, I was talking about local. Like
Mhm.
I was saying, hey, you're bad about this. Guess what? Federal funding is being cut here. That's affecting our roads. That's affecting our city streets. Like, or is homelessness or is housing, like always trying to make it down to local to make people, and honestly, I think that was a huge part of it. People were involved, they were engaged, and so that helped with the turnout. But I also got a lot of messages from folks who said, hey, I heard you speak at one of these. So that it was just a larger public arena which they could connect. But I wouldn't say that was part of our messaging strategy at all. We really, I want to say downplayed it, but I don't want people to get caught up in the national, like you're saying. It is so divisive. I think people are tired of the ick. I'm tired of the ick. You're tired of the ick. And to me, politics is less left and right, right? It's more up and down. And that's what our message of our campaign was anyway. It was about housing affordability, it was about transit, it was about trees, childcare, these things that affect people every day. People are struggling. Half our city is struggling, right? And so we need representation for that.
Mhm. So, Bree, you get hired to be Tina's campaign manager. What are the things that you're looking at? How are you putting together a campaign plan? What are the numbers that you're digging into? And are you looking for kind of an overarching narrative of what's happening here locally that's going to really drive the race and how Tina kind of takes herself out to the people? What are you looking at when you get started?
Yeah, those are all really good questions because Um, I'm having to think back, like, what did I look at? But it feels like it was so long ago. But
I
we really
know.
started, I think it was January that we really started. Tina
Yeah.
reached out in December, like she said, like right when she woke up
Yeah.
that next day and was like, I'm gonna have to do something. It was early and I had to tell her, I was like, actually, I'm on break until January, so we can talk after the new year.
That's
And
funny.
so she's like, that's fine, totally fine. Just let me know we can meet, please. And I was like, okay. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it was, why you're doing it, all that type of thing, all those type of questions. Cause I want you to want to do this. I don't want to do this just cause someone asked you to, or I just think I'd be good. I mean, I need more than that. It's substance. And so she came with it and knew exactly the pain points of the community and all the different people she had talked with that, have seen these different things changing in Greenville and the scope of what Greenville would look like. That just went through a mayoral race and a few other races the year or two before. And just looking at the landscape of what, Greenville City needed and what this moment meant of keeping the majority on council and balancing
Balance. Yeah.
what balancing what everyone needs and wants is so important, and it's very hard to achieve. So when you do achieve that on a city or county council, any municipal level, that's an amazing feat. A lot of people can't do that. And then if you're able to even make common sense decisions with everyone that's sitting on that council, it makes for a good city. It makes for a good community, that you're really able to come together and do that. So I think that was the driver here. And then having Russell Stahl support, going in and knowing that he would be hands on deck where we needed him, and he wanted to be immediately available first day and run this race with us, alongside us, and help as much as he could, was also another big factor for me, because you're bringing in a lot of support. Russell's very much liked and supported across the city, and had done some really good work in being there. And Tina and him had some prior history and a connection. And so it really was one of those times that I say everything felt right. And when it was feeling right and lining up, the numbers were there. We had to dispel the myth for about 5 months that Greenville City is Democratic. Don't let anybody tell you anything else. And they wanted to give us all the numbers, and we're like, do you need us to go to SC vote so that we can tell you what the numbers are? Kamala won Greenville. Okay, she won the city of Greenville. Would you like to keep going down the list? Joe Biden won the city of Greenville. Jamie Harrison won the city of Greenville. Will you need us to give you another person? So we had to
Yeah.
dispel this myth for about 5 months that was so hard for people to wrap their mind around. And then also Tina had to be Tina. Tina is the makeup of the city of Greenville. The average age is about 38 to 43 of women, that are young and working and mothers and raising young families. And that was a part of it as well. It also sometimes is the messenger match what the city needs at that moment. And Tina, actually, the median everything was like Tina, 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 Tina.
I'm so
So
average.
it was, yeah. Well, you were average, but you were what met the moment of the city. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But it was what you need. Like when you really analyze what works for a district or an area or a seat,
Yeah.
you want to look at that and what that means. So where we are, like, it was just really the signs were all pointing that way. Just dissecting the numbers of the city in general and many different races that we had to contend with. And then the city has a really popular mayor. So it was really, nice for our side to not have a race when the mayor was on the ballot, just because it helped us to strengthen the ability to preach our message, right? And not feel like that got in the way. And I mean, I do pat ourselves on the back. The mayor did endorse Tina's opponent, and we won. So I just want to put that out there for whoever else is thinking about anything else in the future. Don't let other people dictate what you do. You stay strong and believe in your message and what you want to do, and you go for it.
That's right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I can't tell you how many people elected Democrats
Yes.
who like don't run.
Really?
You'll lose.
They thought you were going to lose.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I said, I'm running anyway.
Why did they? What was this?
Operatives, Democrat.
Tell me more about this undercurrent of like, why are you doing this? You're going to lose. What was that?
I mean, I do think you're just coming off of Kamala's really hard loss. I think there's a lot of just hard feelings. I mean, I'm still hearing it. I'm still running into people going, "Oh my God, I'm so happy you won. I really thought, I mean, just from all sides of this, not from people from their team, from it's almost like Bree and I were like, our team was the only one like, yeah, we're gonna do it. I'm like,
everyone on our
anyway,
team was like, we can win. And everyone was like, we don't know. And I'm like, what? We can win.
Yeah. So
Well,
you just have to believe in your team and yourself and your message more than anything.
yeah, I mean, there's that belief, right? But there's also like the numbers historically were very clear, right? Like it's
There.
not like you weren't running to flip a seat. You were running to
That's right,
move into a
maintain.
seat that was already Democratic,
That's
There
right?
you
right.
go.
I mean, no, I'm
Um,
not an older white man, I'm not,
mm,
established, I'm not,
so they
in the
didn't
good
think
old
that you
boys
fit the
club or wear
they
a
didn't think
certain
that you fit the
name.
profile of someone who could win.
Maybe so.
That's what I'm
And that
hearing,
also
maybe.
goes
And
back.
there's sexism and there's.
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead,
And
Bree.
that also
Sorry.
goes back to, no, you're fine, to what I was saying about what the the demographics of Greenville are. And
Yes.
people think they assume we do a
Mhm.
lot of assumptions.
Yeah.
And don't
Yeah.
assume. And other piece about Tina and her work, Tina knew every demographic about the city because she worked on all types of housing plans and community plans for the city. So she had already known what the city looked like, and she was what
Mhm.
the city looked like.
Right.
And people that didn't know that and didn't spend that time in the data and in the numbers, they had no idea. They're just
Mhm.
assuming, oh no, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Mhm.
where? Because what we're looking
Mhm.
at, this is what you do. This is who lives here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
Greenville's
it's not
changed.
like you like eked out a win. Like your win was
Say that.
formidable,
Say
right?
that.
Like
Formidable.
it was a formidable win. It wasn't particularly close. And
60-40 to be exact.
I chalk a lot of that up to the work that you all did and Tina, who you are as a candidate. And I hope that that's a kind of resounding, like the numbers matter, right?
They do.
And
Yeah.
the candidate matters a lot, but that's just a reflection for me on how much we actually spend a lot of time in campaigns having to convince people that it makes sense to do this for whatever reasons, and having to convince our own people that we've got, a strategy and a plan in place. And I mean, Brie, when I hear you talk about it, we had to say it over and over and over.
5 months.
It's like, well, she's in the race, so it is what it is,
I
and
know, right?
everybody get on board with figuring out how to get her elected. Like, we don't have to keep questioning that decision. And so
Mm.
Yeah.
that's a big takeaway for me in this conversation is that's a red flag. Like, well, and I think it speaks to the need for us as operatives, candidates, etc., to put the numbers in front of people. Like, we have a role to play in shaping the narrative, right?
That's
Yes.
right.
And
That's right.
informing voters, like other electeds, operatives, that here's the data that we're actually looking at that says we have a really good shot here. Like, why wouldn't we
Yeah.
take this opportunity?
It's it's just like policy, you have to come at it from a data-driven, what's effective, what isn't. I think we get a lot of which, there's also messaging with a campaign, but sometimes we get all up in our emotions and our perception of the bubbles, especially like I live in a certain neighborhood or I live in a certain zip code. And you're thinking real small.
Right. Or like I see all of these signs for my opponent in my
Whatever.
neighborhood, so
Yeah.
that
On
must
this one
mean
street.
that
Mhm.
Don't get me
he's doing
started
much
on
better than
signs.
me.
I don't let's not start about that.
Please don't get me started on signs. I
Um,
just from your mouth to everyone else's
Oh my
ears.
god. We
but
luckily had one volunteer was so, like, excited and all about the signs that it was like, "Cool, if that's your thing,
Here
you
you
are a
go.
sign person," and
mhm.
it worked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
But
it's a reminder for the electorate, right? That like the team behind the campaign can see the full picture in ways that as just a voter or even just a volunteer, you may not see,
for
and you may
sure.
not be privy to all of that. Some of it
Right.
just is reliant on trust, right? Trust that I've got this and that I know what I'm doing and that we're going to do the best that we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think some of this, and maybe we can talk about this, right? Like there is this narrative in Greenville proper, certainly in Greenville County, that that it's so red and it's so Republican and
Yeah.
that we have to spend so much time persuading moderate Republicans to vote for us. And that just out of the gates, I was talking to Brie about this early on. I'm like, the strategy is not like, I was like, I'm so hopeful that Tina is not going to spend a ton of her time trying to convince moderate Jane and moderate Joe that she's the right person for them. Like, go talk to the Democrats and just get them to show up and turn out, because the numbers
Hmm.
were very kind of favorable.
That's
And
right.
so I just think some of that stuff, we've got to educate our people and our voters and our kind of
Yeah.
democratic operatives to not feed into
Agreed.
narratives that aren't really true, right?
Agreed.
And
If you
owning like what it means to be a Democrat, like that's okay in certain races and in certain areas, right?
That's
And
right.
I felt that with your messaging, you were not running to the middle, right? Like, and not that it was super left right in the first place, but it didn't feel like
Mm-mm.
a retreat from values that you hold dear or that are aligned with democratically aligned folks.
Yeah, and I think I think you're always coming at it from a policy space for me and a solution space, and that's going to cut across whatever party you think is, you're going to have your parties doing their own mailers, doing their own messaging, and they can help. Don't shy away from that. They're helping you. Like,
Mhm.
take the help.
Mhm.
And I think you're right. I think we get so like, "Ooh, but I don't wanna hurt anybody." And it's like, if someone really likes you and they like your ideas, and I got a ton of support from moderate Republicans because they like my ideas and my background, and that's the stuff you spend your time working on, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And when you go to a door and someone asks you, "Yeah, you better probably say I'm a Democrat," you know?
Mhm.
But also talk about why that doesn't matter,
Mhm.
in this race, right? It's about that balance of our council, right? We could have
Yeah.
gone from a 4-3 that we have now to a 5-2,
Mhm.
talking about an unbalanced council.
Mhm.
That's not healthy, right, for
Mhm.
any city.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about narratives, because my this is just my perspective, is that Greenville City, Greenville County, the larger kind of narrative at play here from a political perspective and just from a kind of lived experience perspective is that there's so much growth that the developers who are leading the charge and the politicians who are letting the developers do this are out of control, and the people are taking the brunt of all of the impacts of this development
Yeah,
and the natural world, right? You were running against a developer,
yeah,
uh, and it was literally, for me, it was like, oh, this is the story not only of this race, but of what's happening here in Greenville County, right?
that's
Like,
right.
a person of the people, just based on your background and the work that you do,
Mhm.
and a
Yeah,
developer. And that has nothing to do with who Matt Alexander is as a person, anything like that,
not at all, not at
right?
all.
Like, we're not talking about personal, but there's this kind of overlying kind of story around development, overdevelopment, growth at all
Yeah,
costs, and who it impacts and who's not benefiting from it. And I
that's
wonder
right.
how much you agree with extrapolating from your race, that larger story, and how that even fed into some of the ways you talked about things throughout your campaign.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that is a story. I think that is the message in what we tried to hone in on most. Right? Especially towards the end, the last few months, it was like anytime we had the opportunity, it was like, who do you think will manage growth better? A planner or a developer? Like that's just a fact. Those are our two professions. Um, yeah, I think that's absolutely why it didn't matter your, party affiliation. People were looking at who's benefiting from this growth and who isn't,
Mm,
and who has worked and done the work to help mitigate the negative impacts of overdevelopment and growth. Only one person on this ballot.
hmm yeah. So I just want to say congrats again, because I think the race was very
Great.
well run and
Great
obviously
job,
incredibly
Ray.
successful. Bree, I'm curious from your perspective, because I know that kind of all over the state, and you have run a number of races at every level of government. I wonder kind of what you feel like we can take from Tina's race and speak to like across the state what you think candidates need to be focused on in 2026, and how Democrats across the state, whether it's at the local level, the state level, or running for federal office, what do folks need to be thinking about and looking at um, as we head into another really incredibly busy election year?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is, and this is why I love local elections so much, and I'll even say, like, even just statewide elections as well, when you can, and you're not running on the national level at all. Like, if you're not running for a federal office and you're running for a state or local municipal election, focus on the state, focus on the people, focus on your back door. We get caught up, and we talked about it earlier, with the shiny new object of what's happening in Washington. You know what's closer to you than Washington? Greenville,
Yeah.
the city you live in. You know the streets and stuff you're concerned about, the trash pickup you're mad about, the mailbox issue. You know who's dealing with that on the front line? Your city, your town, your county council. And that's why I love local races. I had an operative say something to me the other day about how he doesn't do local races because they don't make him enough money. I said, because you're doing it for the wrong reason. Your heart is in local races. What we do, our day to day, is in local races. I was just praising our city council here in Columbia the other day because they announced that we're getting a Publix that is 5 minutes from my house. You know how excited I am about that? And that had nothing to do with nobody that's sitting on any national nowhere. That had to do with my local city council member. And I sent him a message on Instagram and was like, praise you. He was like, won't he do it? I was like, you did that because you're on
That's
city
great.
council. Thank you for bringing the Publix. And the other Publix ain't but 10 minutes away, but it's small, it's congested. Now we got a big, nice new Publix that's coming. So, it's little things that improve your quality of life and that allow you to go be busy and be doing all the things you're doing. And then when I need to stop by the grocery store, I now can just stop real quick and I'm home in 5 minutes. I ain't got to fight traffic. I can find a park. It's all those things that impact you day to day. And so I just challenge people to start back having that conversation. They used to love to say that politics is local. That has been a
Yeah,
political buzzword for years, but we've got to get back to
that's
politics
right.
being local and let the national people know that in the state, we're going to take care of each other and we're going to take care of our own. So whatever y'all up there doing, if you can't figure it out, our people in state got us. And the people in state can work with the people on the federal level to keep having us. And that is what politics should be. And that is how politics should work. So for me, it's staying true to the local issues. Talk about what matters in your district. I ran a race in House District 50. We won a special election this year for Representative Keyshawn Scott. And in that race, they wanted him to have a website. They wanted him to have this and that. And I say they being the people who help you with some of these campaigns. And I said, he doesn't need a website. Do you know how hard it is to get internet in this district? Who's going to be able to access a website? So they fought me
Right.
down to the day before that election about not having a website, and we never got one. Because who's going to get on there and look at it? They can't
Right.
barely get on the internet. So you have to be plugged in to where you're running and know your people. He said everyone's on Facebook. When they get internet, they get on Facebook. We have so many Facebook groups. Make you a good Facebook. Let's work Facebook because that's where your people are. And that's where your voters are. And you're in tune with your community. And he won that election because he was very in tune with his community. And that's what it takes. If you step out here and run, know what the people want. And if you don't know, you need to get out and you need to ask them on foot. You
That's
need to be
right.
out talking to the people and know what they want.
I think that's such a huge point. It takes you should be building relationships over decades, you know? Like,
Yes.
and I know that sounds like, oh, that's so taunting and daunting. Like, I don't know if I can, but you do it every day, right? You're already probably doing it. And if you're working in this stuff and you care about it, you're making those inroads already. You just don't realize that they're going to bear fruit later.
Mm-hmm. So, Tina, you take office next week, right? What
Yeah.
what date is your swear in?
Monday, the 8th.
Monday, the 8th.
Yeah.
So you're transitioning from running to governing. And I
Yes.
just wonder, as we start to wrap up, what are some of the considerations for you around what that will look like for you? How do you want to govern, and
Yeah.
how do you plan to stay connected with the people and connected on the ground
Yeah.
level to the issues that people care about in ways that got you elected?
Well, I've certainly, I'm a planner in practice, and so I do a lot of work in the area, particularly affordable housing. So I'll always be plugged in that ecosystem around here, for the foreseeable future. But I'll continue to go to the neighborhood meetings that I've been going to. I'll continue to, go to all the um, events for around the city and connecting with folks. But I believe first and foremost, transparency first. I studied public administration, and I thought maybe I'd be like a city manager one day. I was like on that path, and then I was like, well, if I'm a city manager, who's my boss? And I was like, oh, the council. So yeah. I'm gonna run for council instead. Because I'm probably just too opinionated to ever really be a city manager. So, we have an amazing one, by the way, at our city. But I think all that said, I think transparency is important. I think civic engagement is so important. I don't care what side of which aisle you're on or whatever, no aisles. I really want to make sure people have all the information that they need when coming to council and making decisions. And I'm going to have office hours. I work at a co-working space in town. I'm going to post those. So expect just really good continued communication from me, monthly newsletter, active on social media, because I want everybody, whether they voted for me or not, be able to access me and let me help them and better our city. And I'll be talking about our 4 things that we talked about in our campaign. Continue
Yeah,
to make a plan to hit those milestones.
awesome. Thank you. Last question. One thing that you hope that people will take away from this conversation, or um, something that you
So
just want to uplift and give to inspire, give people some hope.
don't listen to the haters, you know?
Fuck the haters.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like,
Ah,
just listen to yourself and believe in yourself. Stay true to who you are, and no matter what, you're gonna be fine. You know.
mm, mhm. Awesome. Thank you. Well, this podcast was named inspiration from a piece that was written by Clarissa Pinkola Estes called Letter to a Young Activist During Troubled Times. And at the end of that piece, she says, I hope that you'll write this on your wall. When a great ship is in harbor and moored, it is safe, there can be no doubt. But that is not what great ships were built for. And I just want to name you and Bree as incredible ships who have put yourselves out there and are doing really incredible work on behalf of your community. And I want to say thank you. I really appreciate you for all that you've done. I know it's not easy, and I'm wishing you a huge ton of success and goodwill as you step into your office.
Thank you, Taylor. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see your ship come out of the harbor again.
Well, we'll see.
Wink, wink.
One step at a time. One
Okay.
step at a time. All righty. Thank you.